Welcome into 4 must-start fantasy football players for week 10 of fantasy football. I'm your host, Josh, here joined by Alec. As always, Alec, yet another great week for us last week, and we are continuing to roll on here. And we've got 4 guys this week. So typically, you guys will see we normally do 6 guys. It is dry this week. There are a lot of really easy gimme matchups, if you will, right? Where you're going to start Jahmyr Gibbs, you're going to start Amon-Ra St. Brown, and for the guys like a David Montgomery or Jameson Williams, we don't necessarily love the matchup, right? I'm just using Lions players because it's easy off the top of the head. But there's a lot of ones like that, right? So we only have 4 guys here today, but we're going to hop right into it. Alec, I took first reign last week. I'm going to give you first reign this week.
Okay, awesome. So my first guy this week, I'm going to go Michael Pittman Jr. They're playing in Berlin against the Falcons. I think so. Kind of my reasoning behind this and what I think about this. Michael Pittman Jr. is the number 6 PPR receiver in fantasy football this year. We've thought about this for the last couple of years. Did he fall off? No, they just needed a competent quarterback to come in and actually give him targets.
Yep.
He is the true alpha there. Tyler Warren's really helped him out, and obviously when JT runs for freaking 400 yards a game, that also helps him out too, get open. So I really like the matchup this week. Atlanta's corners aren't great, and I think the Colts might just obliterate them off the face of Europe. If they do that, I'm guessing Michael Pittman's going to have a good game.
Yeah. I mean, statistically wise, as far as yards per game, Atlanta's got one of the best, defenses.
I'm just saying.
But
Yes. Yeah. I'm just saying, Atlanta has not seen an offense like the Colts. Like the Colts' offense is fantastic. Like you can't stop the run. They're gonna be loading the box for JT.
Yes.
So that's why I think Michael Pittman has a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing to look at too is Daniel Jones's play, right? Which neither here nor there, but I completely disagree with the fact that the Colts are giving up 2 first rounds for Sauce Gardner. Yes, he's going to help your defense a lot. You don't have a first round pick the next 2 years, and you're relying on Daniel Jones being an elite quarterback like what he's shown in 8 weeks of his career. But either way, Daniel Jones last week was the worst we've seen Daniel Jones play with the Colts, and Michael Pittman Jr. had a great game last week, fantasy wise, right? I mean, 9 catches, 115 yards, goes for 20-plus points in Daniel Jones' worst game. So I'm not necessarily concerned about Daniel Jones' play at the quarterback position. The only situation I think for the rest of the season in which Michael Pittman Jr. is not going to be fantasy valuable is if they're in a matchup like against the Saints or against maybe the Panthers, where JT is going to be able to run for 200, and they're not going to need to throw the ball, right? Like Daniel Jones might end the game with 155 passing yards because he didn't need to throw it. So, but this is not one of those games. I don't think this is one of those games. I know it's in Berlin. Sometimes you see some weird stuff happen when it's played overseas and it's just slower games. I wouldn't be surprised if Pittman still gets the good target share that we've been seeing him get. He's emerged as the alpha. I love him this week as well. Like we said, Atlanta's got it, statistically speaking, a good defense. I don't necessarily think that it's one that on paper is elite, and I don't think it's one that is going to trouble Michael Pittman Jr. Producing in fantasy. So no, I love that one there too. My first one here, I mentioned the Saints rushing defense, and that was the first one on top of my mind because I have Rico Dowdle here as my first one. This is my favorite play of the week, and there's not many good ones, but this is my favorite one. And Rico Dowdle's coming off of a week where 2 weeks ago we got to see him and Chuba Hubbard actually play in the backfield at the same time, right? We were kind of confused what's going to happen. Dowdle has his Jay Ajayi run, as I referred to it as, and Chuba Hubbard comes back from injury. Chuba Hubbard was great last year. You kind of didn't know what that balance was going to be. Rico Dowdle, the first week that they played together, kind of said, hey, look, I'm still the alpha here. Last week, it was actually shown, right? It was 75% of 75% of snaps on the ground, or 75% of snaps in general for Rico Dowdle, 22 for Chuba, 25 touches for Rico Dowdle last week, 25 carries, I should say. He emerged as the alpha, also ran all over the Packers rushing defense, which is elite. Their rushing defense is very, very good. So I love Rico Dowdle. I haven't even mentioned the fact that New Orleans' rushing defense, especially on the road this year, is atrocious. It is awful. So I fully expect Rico Dowdle to be 20-plus touches. And if you're giving Rico Dowdle, who just went 25 carries for 150 yards against a great defense, if you're giving him 18 to 20 carries against this New Orleans defense, he might put up 200 yards again. I wouldn't be shocked given his recent history and the matchup.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know you said Jay Ajayi, but that was a while ago. I can't remember in the last couple of years where a running back just took over a backfield, like with when the starter was out, like this drastic. Like Rico Dowdle is arguably a top 12 running back the rest of the way.
Right. I'm trying to think. James Robinson. I wanted it for
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
yeah, yeah.
Is the
But
last
but,
one
but
I'm
Chuba
thinking of. That was
Hubbard,
like
like they signed
2020.
to a Chuba Hubbard, they signed to like a kind of a big running back contract this offseason.
Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah,
coming into the season, it was Chuba Hubbard is our starter. You see that on the depth chart and on the bottom line, right? The
yeah,
financials, and then you're seeing
yeah.
complete shift in that here. But yeah,
Yeah, and so my second guy, I think this is my favorite of the week. So we're recording this on Thursday. So Ramondre Stevenson officially missed practice again on Thursday. So not looking like he's going to play. So this is kind of like an asterisk by this. But I really love Travion Henderson again this week. We
mhm.
kind of saw him. I think he got 20 plus touches last week. I really, really like him against Tampa this week. They're playing in Tampa. It's going to be a little bit warmer weather. And also, he had 75% snap share last week, which is fantastic. I know they brought up Jennings. Jennings got the touchdown, that little touchdown that Jennings got. But I think Henderson has a really good chance to kind of pop off again this week. He's going
Mhm.
to eventually have a huge fantasy game if he keeps getting 20 touches a game. Like he's going to break one. It's
Yeah.
going to
Well,
happen. So please just put him in your flex, please.
yes. Well, and the other thing too is, especially as you were saying, there's not many good matchups this
Yeah,
week. Trayvon Henderson is one that when you have the matchup up against the Tampa Bay linebackers, and you're as good in the passing game as Trayvon Henderson is, you have to start him because I mean, last week had 4 catches. If you're giving me 4 catches against this Tampa Bay, linebacker core, I love you to have at least 30 to 50 yards, like at minimum 4 for 30, right? And I would expect him to have at least 4 to 6 catches out of the backfield. So I love this. I think that also with what the Patriots, I would say did do, but more didn't do at the trade deadline, right? They didn't trade for a running back, right? Which I think they were getting some rumors to whether they were going to be involved with Brees Hall, right? Whether they were going to be involved with some other guys. Alvin Kamara was a name getting brought up. With the fact that they did nothing at the running back position tells me, okay, Travion Henderson last week played 75% of snaps. There was nothing that stood out to them and said, yeah, we can't have that happen again. So I really, really like this. I think with no Ramondre here, it's Travion Henderson is going to be set up to have a monster week through the air, and then I'll also complimentary on the ground too. But I
yeah.
love that one there.
He's got to break one. He's got to break. I mean, he's one of those guys where if he breaks one run, he could go for 70.
Easy.
Easy.
Yes.
Easy 70. Yeah.
The fastest 4.42 I've ever seen in my life was
We texted. It looked like he ran a 4.1. I mean,
yeah.
honestly. And then it said 4.4, and we're like, huh? Like I
Yeah.
thought it was at least in the 4.3s.
Yes, it was fast, but either way. So my second and then our fourth and final guy for the show here today is Jordan Addison against Baltimore. This is probably not going to be a very popular one, and I understand that. First game back, or first game with JJ McCarthy last week. It was his first game going under 11.5 points in the season. You could say those two are correlated. I think there's a chance that they're maybe correlated. I think probably the bigger chance is that Minnesota's offense in general kind of just stalled in that game, and the game itself stalled, right? So I think, Detroit was going, as somebody, Lions fan watching the game, just really pissed off. Detroit was, really struggling on third downs. They were making defensive stands. It was kind of going back and forth, right? And overall, it was just not a very offensive game. And I
Yeah.
still think that Addison is going to be just fine in the role. I think going up against Baltimore, you're getting a little bit more chemistry right now. Now you've played a game with JJ McCarthy. You have one game under your belt. You're starting to develop that connection a little bit more, right? Love Island style, if you will, developing the connection. And I think that realistically, Jordan Addison up against the Baltimore secondary, where they're giving up 250 a game right now, and their offense is back to moving the ball. That's one thing I like, right? Baltimore, their offense is going to put up points.
Yep.
I actually really, really like the situation for Addison. Yes, Jettas is there. I think Addison is going to complement, Jettas with JJ at the helm here. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets back into that greater than 11.5 points per game and ends up flirting with 15.
Yeah, no, I like it too. And I think the reason is I love an offense. It's kind of like the Bengals. Like we like to target them because their offense is fantastic, but their defense sucks. So the score is
Mhm.
going to be like 40 to 35. So
Yes.
I think Addison's a great target this week because we do know he is a touchdown magnet too. So he's
Yes.
always a threat for a touchdown.
Absolutely. Yep. And especially when you're in weeks when you're losing several guys from your starting lineup to bye week, and there's plenty of injuries that are kicking in this week, and have been kicking in. This is one of those where if you can get somebody that has very, very high touchdown upside and put them in your flex, it's a great thing to have. So
Love it.
having said that, those are our 4 guys here for week 10. Like we said, normally have 6 guys, only have 4 just because we didn't want to force any too many guys this week. But either way, those are our 4 guys. This has been the Sports Geeks Podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.